Hi all, this is Chris here with Everyday VBA, and in this video we're going to be putting some of the array stuff that we've been learning into practice. And specifically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using CurrentRegion to take a sheet's worth of data, put that in an array. We're then going to loop through that array. We're going to take an if statement to find the data that we're looking for. Then we're going to move that data to a new sheet. We're going to make the criteria dynamic by using an input box, and then we're going to clean up some code using some really cool offset clear using CurrentRegion, and then we're going to add a button. So at the end of this, what we should have is essentially a fully functioning app in which you can transfer data from one sheet to a new sheet based on using input box. So that is the plan. So we are going to dig in real quick. We're going to call this loop array. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use the CurrentRegion piece that we looked at. I do use the code names, which is this right here, the sheet one, not actually the name of the sheet, but actually what the code calls. So we're going to go array is equal to sheet one dot cells. Now that declaration of sheet one is important because if I was on another sheet, it would not actually pull it in. All right, we've got CurrentRegion. So now what I want to do is essentially what I want to do now is write a loop that goes through each one and checks my miles per gallon. I'm looking for miles per gallon over 20. So we're going to write a loop. So it's going to be for RW equals 2 because we don't care about our header. And we're going to use our Ubound. Now Ubound is the upper bound of that array. The nice part about that is since the size of this CurrentRegion can go up or down, it's nice to use CurrentRegion because if I take data out or put it in, it will actually resize. So let's walk through this real quick. You'll notice that this is 399, which happens to be the same size as my sheet as I've passed that section of data within sheet one into the array. Now let's move on with the criteria. So our criteria, as I mentioned, is going to be over 20 miles per gallon. If it's greater than 20, then stop. Okay. And we've got to put an end if. And I only put the stop in there just because it's easier to kind of display what we're trying to do. So I've got a loop that goes through, not actually in the sheet, but it's actually going through the array. And we go F8. We're going to run this. And we're going to get to a stop. Now you'll notice if I make it to 16, it's visually right here. I know that that is it. But really what I'm looping through is I'm not looping through the sheet, I'm looping through the array. Now why do you loop through the array? Basically it's just significantly faster. You basically process everything in the RAM instead of the screen, and there's not screen updating, etc. It is a good way to go. So all right, so now what we need to do is we need to take this data and we need to move it over to sheet 2. So we've got our headers here. Now I know that if I look here, I'd need to start on 2. This is the first one. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another variable called RP, RW, which I just use a lot essentially because I think of it like report row. We're going to do another loop because we're going to go for our CL is equal to 1, 2, Ubound again, but instead of using the first dimension, we're going to use the second dimension, which is the number of columns. And we're going to go next, and then we're going to go sheet 2 because that's where we're going to be putting our data. We go cells RPRW, comma CL is equal to array RWCL. And so this may not make a whole lot of sense, but let's actually process it. So I came back up here so that we could actually have 2 in our report row. So you'll notice we are on 16, right? We've got CL here. So what we're going to do is on sheet 2, which is here, in column 1, we are going to go through, and I'm just going to walk you through this. And it's going to do that loop through all the columns. Now, because I've used Ubound, it will go over to however big that is. Now, the next piece that we need to do in here, because if I just ran this again, it would actually just overwrite stuff, right? you'll notice it's overriding, and that's not necessarily the end game. That's not what we want. So what we need to do is we need to go RPRW equals RPRW plus 1. So I've got RPRW in there. Oh, looks like we got an error in here because I did not put an equals sign. All right, let's walk through and see how this works. So we've increased RPRW. These sheets are, this is going to work the same. And again, that did not increase, so we're going to run F5 again. And now you'll notice it comes through as we speak. And we can actually just go through this. I could actually turn this off. And just run the rest of it. So I'm going to comment out stop because I don't need it. And there we essentially have taken this set of data and we have moved it, everything that's over 20 miles an hour. Now let's make this a little bit more dynamic. So what we're going to do, which is awesome, is we're going to come in here and we're going to put an input box. So we're going to go right here, we're going to go iBox, which is the variable name that I use for input box. And we're going to go enter MPG over X. X being, what's it going to be? We're just going to call this MPG. Okay. So now what we're going to do, we've added a variable and we're going to come in here. We've got iBox. Let's do 10. Okay, we've got 10 in there. Now we've got to put this in. We got to put this into our criteria, and we're just going to put iBox in here. And you will notice that it's. Let's see if it stopped on us because it does look like it made that text. So let's take a look. It looks like that doesn't stop at all. So what we need to do is we need to go times 1, which essentially will convert that to. Yep. So if we essentially take the text, Excel is smart enough to know, oh, let's convert that into a number, and we're going to have our list. Now the challenge is we're overwriting our data because we haven't cleared it out yet. Okay, so this is really easy to do. This was kind of the last piece of our journey. We're going to go sheet 2.cells 11.currentRegion. Got to spell right. .offset. Offset is going to move this down 1. .clear. Okay. So what we're doing, I did not spell region correctly. I know that because it didn't fix it. So we're going to go sheet 1. It's going to pick the current region, which is similar to Control A. However, it's going to offset it or move it down 1 row, and it's going to clear it. So let's stop this piece of code here. Let's go through here, and then let me just show you real quick what that would actually look like if we use select in our fancy little. It's going to essentially move it down 1, and if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, it's actually going to overhang by 1 row, which we don't care because that's a blank row anyway, and it's always going to be a blank row, but in this case we're not going to select it, we're actually going to clear it. So now as we process this, let's do 25. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to run F5. There is everything over 25 miles per gallon. So the one last little piece here is we're going to insert a shape, just a square. We're going to come in here and we're going to assign a macro. We're going to assign loop array. I'm going to put one little piece here, which is sheet 2.select. And the nice part about this is now I can say I want 30, and it's actually going to go and give me all of my 30. I go back to my sheet. I want to do 20. There we have it. So that is a ton of information in a very short amount of time. This code will be included. Again, please subscribe on YouTube below, and I hope you enjoyed.